And we're back for part two, I guess, here, or round two. Um, as some of you guys know, if you were here last night, we did a stream last night, and it was a great stream. Everything was pretty golden. Was no warnings throughout either that there was any copyright content detected, nothing like that, because usually you'll get a warning if there's going to be an issue. But there was none of that, and but as soon as we ended the stream, hold on, we're getting some feedback. There we go. As soon as I ended the stream, it got blocked worldwide by BBC for the Prince Edward clips, or the Prince Andrew clips. Sorry guys, I'm still a little tired. But we're holding it together here. But anyway, so because of the Prince Andrew clips, so they're really working overtime trying to keep people from talking about this, or about that specifically anyway. So I'd spent that, a good portion last night trying to clip that up and get salvage what I could from that live stream and re-upload it for you guys. Somebody messaged me, were like, I was watching it, I was right in the middle of watching it and catching up, and poof, it was gone. So I do apologize for that, but it just goes to show how, right on the target we are here, paying attention to this and not letting them quiet it or cover it up. I think there was a few different creators that it's like they've never had an issue before, and it is fair use too, so there should be no issue. But they've gone ahead and exercised the copyright hammer, which, they can drag it out for 30 days if they'd like. So anybody trying to speak on it now, if they touch on that part of it, and they have any clips or any footage from that, it automatically just blocks it. So, like I said, I guess we are right on track here. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to do it differently, though. I think we spoke enough about the people that were doing the evil. So I think this time we're going to focus a little more on the survivors and just pushing the whole message that obviously they need to release the files, because at this point, I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily believe that she did do it to herself, same as with Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel and all the other people connected to this case, which I found there was a lot more when I started digging into it, and then when you consider the whole Clinton rabbit hole and all the people in their sphere that either died under mysterious circumstances or it was a suspicious self-inflicted circumstance, quote unquote. So we're going to kind of go down a different route tonight, but obviously just want to keep highlighting this situation and not let them silence everybody, not have us all backing down just because they're trying to block the videos, or they're trying to silence it one way or another. But what's up, guys? What's up, Bubbles, Charlie, Veronica, S86? I'm just going to do it this way instead of typing hey to everybody like I usually would in the premieres. What's up, Six? Denise is here. Welcome, Bloudman. Glad to have you all the way from Germany. And sorry, guys. Sorry we started a little later. But yeah, hopefully you guys, didn't concern you too much, didn't have you in too much trauma because of it, I hope. Because I definitely did not intend to freak you guys out. But yeah, after everything last night, I, finally had uploaded everything and got it all done. But by the end of it, I was so tired, but I was I just tossed and turning, I couldn't sleep. So things didn't necessarily line up today like I would have liked them to. But we're here now, and I think that's the main thing. And I've set it up a bit different too. I'm going to do it so that any clips we do play, I've got the underlays and stuff to make it a little fuzzy, and we're going to try our best here. Might have to play some music in the background underneath some of these clips if we are going to do clips. But I think pretty much everything else is fine. Everything was fine. It was just anything from BBC, so I think we'll just try to avoid that. When you were brought up, you thought he was an amazing cool president. Yeah, well, that's how everybody's meant to believe. That's what everybody is made to believe for a reason. They go the extra mile to make them into an idol, somebody that you'd want to idolize, and they highlight all the good parts. But very rarely does anybody ever hear the bad parts when it comes to people, high-profile people, whether they're in politics or they're a high-up religious leader, or they're some kind of celebrity, or powerful businessman, whatever. It's very often that the bad gets covered up and they highlight the good. Nobody really actually knows the true sense of their character. Yeah, hey Faucet Queen, welcome. Yeah, well, I think that we do kind of need to keep our thumb on this and keep covering different aspects of it, because like at this point, it's all the more reason to release the files, which that's where we're going to kind of start here. There's more and more people paying attention. More people are like, okay, well, what's going on with these files? They did that whole silly thing. So like this and the victims, but I definitely want to highlight like that we need answers, because yeah, there's more and more people talking about the files and they want the files released. There's like, again, like they've been saying, there's renewed interest, and that may be part of the reason that they have silenced her. But I mean, either way, whether she had actually done it to herself or not, it's a result of this whole debacle, like it's the whole situation that one way or the other, even if they want to say that, oh, she did it to herself, like she couldn't carry on anymore. Well, why do you think that is? Like, she's been in this battle for how long? All these years, and nobody's been brought to justice. Both of the main accusers, Jean-Luc Brunel and Epstein, died under mysterious circumstances in a very similar fashion. And like with Epstein, he had signs of it was strangulation, not of a hanging. So, and like in both of those cases, with Jean-Luc Brunel, the big modeling, fashion designing magnate or whatever you'd want to call him, and Epstein, they both had suspiciously ended their own lives, and there was no camera footage in both circumstances, one in France and one in the US. Both circumstances the cameras happened to malfunction, so these lead people basically, I mean, not necessarily got off scot-free, but we don't know if it was a fake death or a real death, or we just don't know, because there's so much that could be theater, right? And like obviously we don't want to leave too much to speculation, and we don't want to be erring on conspiracy theory here. But either way, whatever happened, and none of these victims have gotten justice. Like, with the Prince Andrew thing, he got off scot-free they paid a settlement, and that was that. He figured that would be the end of that. And then, yeah, these two main people were supposedly, whatever, their lives ended, right? So just that dragging the whole thing out and seeing the corruption and seeing how ridiculous this whole thing is, like, that's enough to drive anyone to it. In some cases, some victims that have already gone through enough. And then she was apparently facing a lot of threats of violence, intimidation, gang stalking, all these things that we hear about, but we don't necessarily understand or know exactly why or how those things happen. But there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than we knew. And she had said that she wasn't, and I guess it was a few years ago, but she had said at no point, like, I'm not trying to end my life. And like she was doing fine. She'd gotten that big payout. She'd moved, out and away from the U.S. and had her family. She had 3 kids. Like, really had no reason whatsoever to want to end that, And even with everything that's getting crazy, everything's getting stressful. It's just like this would have been the time to push harder, to push further, And like there was that suspicious accident she was in a couple weeks ago, and she pulled through from that. So why would she turn around now and want to end it, So, yeah, that's kind of where we're going to go tonight. I do have a couple more clips of some of the other survivors, and there's some of the survivors they've been speaking up about this specifically. So we're going to dive into some of that. Yeah, actually, maybe we'll jump into a couple of these clips first, then we'll come over to the articles, and then we'll swing back, because then I've got some other stuff loaded up here too from the tweets and stuff, so I'll have to switch around for that. But everything's pretty much ready to go, so actually, yeah, let's switch back around. You're just getting an advertisement of coming attractions here. No, we don't want that one. We don't want that, and we want... There we go. Cool. We're a little foggy, but we're making it happen.
To the other big stories of the day, and the breaking story overnight of Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault. She has died at the age of 41, which is no age at all. In a statement issued yesterday, her family said she had taken her own life in a suburb of Perth where she had been living for several years. They added Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight.
Which, that's what the family's saying, and like they were pretty quick to speak up too, which I was a little bit, little bit spooky to me that they would be speaking with the media right away about it, and making those kinds of statements, because I think, like, after everything she's already been through, after everything that's happened, and after pulling through from a car accident, it just really doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem very likely that it was the weight of the toll of the abuse and the weight of the case and all of this. Like, she's already been through the worst of it, and she was on the other side of it, and then was just pushing for more of the files to be released, because apparently there's like 170 other people that have been named in the case that need to be looked at, or at least need to be publicized, whether they're fully investigated yet or not, or whether, obviously they got to go through due process, and we can't say that anybody's guilty until proven in the court of law by any means. But obviously, between the black book and the flight logs and people that these victims have spoken on, that's enough that it should be something that needs to be brought forward, and if they're still trying to drag it out of the court, that's one thing. They've got high-powered lawyers, they got lots of money, that's just the way that goes, unfortunately. But the fact that it's all being kept quiet and being kept secret, it really just says to me that it's, one of those other things that that's falling under the National Security Act of 1947. And if you guys watched like the John Bonet video, or I've mentioned it in a few different videos and in lives here and there, and it's just starting to become more of a theme, I think, because the National Security Act of 1947 is basically what's allowed the CIA and other special operative type secret services to do all kinds of things behind the scenes, and it's kept quiet because it's considered a threat to national security or whatever to release the information. But this is basically something that's prevented justice in a lot of cases, because somehow it ties back to a military, or it ties back to some high up religious figure, or it ties back to some politician, and as to protect national security, they keep all that stuff quiet. But then we're never getting the full scope of the people that are running the show. We don't actually understand what's really going on because it's never released to the public. A lot of cases end up getting sealed, and under that National Security Act, and it doesn't make any sense anymore. Like, the time's up. We know that a lot of the things that people had figured were going on for decades was going on, as more and more CIA files and things are getting declassified. Even with being so redacted, and even the JFK files, it was all a bunch of nonsense. But slowly but surely, a lot more dots are connecting. So, anyways, yeah, we'll go into it more about what that means and what else that applies to. But there's so many things going on with this. There's so many layers that we need to be able to use it to magnify and amplify these key points, because it's the same pattern. This is a similar pattern to a lot of different cases, because Epstein wasn't the first one, Diddy wasn't the first one, and probably won't be the last ones either. There was this kind of thing's been going on for a long time, and just on different islands, different people, different power players, So, anyways, let's continue with the clip here. Sorry, guys, for that whole tangent, but I guess that's what we're here for. We're going to try to become more informed, more knowledgeable, share some information, and just keep our eyes wide open here.
Okay, joining me now is 7 News Perth reporter James Carmody. James, there you are. Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you bring us up to date, because this story is happening obviously live in Australia. Can you bring us up to date on what is actually going on with this story?
But Dawn, this happened overnight last night. About 10 minutes to 10, police and an ambulance were called to a rural property about an hour's drive north of Perth in a suburb called Neargabby. And that's where Virginia Giuffre has a small farm property. It's a hobby farm where she's been living. She has some horses and some chickens, and there's plenty of space there. They were called there and found a 41-year-old woman who the family has since confirmed was Virginia Giuffre. She was unresponsive, and police and ambulance officers were unable to revive her. Now,
which that just makes it all the more suspicious, in my opinion. Being in a rural property all the way out in the middle of nowhere, and just having her nice little life, her little hobby farm with her little horses and chickens and whatever else they have on those farms, probably some bunny rabbits, and you know what I mean? They got all the stuff. Like, she was having a nice little life out there. She was having, like, there was no reason whatsoever for her to want to end that. And then, like, for somebody to go out of their way, though, too, like, to track her down, like, it's insane. It just shows how far-reaching this is and how much people would want this to stay quiet if it wasn't self-inflicted, which, like, obviously the consensus is mixed. Some people think that, like, a lot of people don't believe that she did it to herself, but some people think that it maybe is a faked death for her to go into witness protection, which I was tossing that idea around last night as well. It's very, very possible that that's part of it here, that maybe because things are heating up and more things are, awaiting to be revealed, and because she is such an important witness in the case, not only just the victim, but has been there helping more victims come forward, and, all of them kind of corroborating each other's stories. So they're all important, obviously, but many of the victims have given her praise for speaking up so loudly and staying on the course with that, and it gave them the strength to come forward as well. So obviously she was very important to the overall, for all the women too, the other women that are in this, right? So I really, really hope that it's very possible, because, like, either way, I don't think people believe she did it to herself. I think that's the general consensus, but then it's like, okay, well, did somebody end her life then, or is it to go into witness protection? Because how else do you go into witness protection? Like, you can't just disappear and go into witness protection. Like, you basically have to fake your death, right? Like, I think that's phase one, because you can't be two people living at the same time. And yeah, exactly, Tubular, exactly. Like, she's got the 3 kids. She had the nice little hobby farm. She had lots of money, so if she needed any psychiatric help or was struggling by any means due to the toll of any abuse, she could get help for that, specialized help. So yeah, I think that that's still kind of up in the air, and maybe it's a little more coordinated than we think, and that's why it seems kind of rushed, that, the family's already coming forward and making statements to the media, and it's just this whole thing. But I mean, yeah, no, exactly, psychedelic soul. In a lot of the cases, it's a hanging. They've not confirmed what the details are of that yet, like whether or not that was the way that it went, or if it was an accidental overdose, like one of the other survivors not long ago as well. Like, so she's not the only one, but obviously she's getting a little more attention because she's been so outspoken and been the forefront of this the whole time. But there are awful lot of different suspicious endings of lives that are basically somebody not only just hung themselves, but hanging from a doorknob too. Like, that's something I've seen to be coming across quite often in some of my other research. So that is sort of even more suspicious, in my opinion. But there's no details specifically about how she went about it, if it was directly self-inflicted or accidentally self-inflicted, because there's many ways to do it, and I guess that part of it doesn't really matter. I think we all are just hoping and I don't know, I guess praying. I'm not very religious, so I don't really pray, but if you pray, that's what you do, whatever, I respect it. I'm a little more of a spiritualist myself, but really just putting it out in the universe that I hope that she's okay wherever she is, and that she's in a safe place, that it is a witness protection situation, and that this just is a good thing versus it being such a tragedy. But it's hard to say, because some of the other survivors are already coming out and speaking too, and saying like that they're scared and they're worried now, and that they're not looking to end their lives, and that they don't believe that Virginia was in the state of mind to want to end her life. Yes, Cats in a Cradle. Like a couple weeks ago, she just pulled through. She was in an accident where a bus hit her car, and she was like in critical condition, and she pulled through from that. So to think that she wouldn't just let go then, if the toll was too heavy, then she maybe would have let go, Like, that was her opportunity then, if that was the case. But she pulled through from that, and then what, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, she's wanting to end her own life? So maybe that was the fear, though, is that was the warning shot kind of thing. Like, and she was able to pull through from that. It was such a close call, because maybe that was an orchestrated thing. And so that's when it was like, okay, maybe you need to go into witness protection, because that was too close of a call, and you're very important to this case, or something to that extent. You know, we don't know. I mean, we are allowed to speculate, but like I said, we don't want to err on the side of conspiracy theory by any means. We do want to base a lot of our educated guesses on facts and the information presented to us, but obviously you got to read between the lines sometimes too, because we do know that there's covert operations and different things going on behind the scenes when it comes to high profile cases such as this, right? So, all right, let's keep going with this clip. Sorry, guys. I guess either way, this is a good conversation, but I do get on a tangent when I'm passionate about things.
Family releasing a statement this morning, Perth time in Western Australia, saying that Ms. Giuffre had taken her own life by suicide after years suffering as the victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, a lifelong victim, they said. Now, major crime detectives here in Western Australia are investigating this death, but they've said there's nothing at this stage to indicate that there was anything suspicious.
Okay, I mean, obviously she is incredibly well known in the UK. Is she as well known in Australia?
People certainly know of Virginia Giuffre and her claims against Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew, but it wasn't that well known a fact that she had been, in fact, living in Western Australia and here in near Perth. But it did come into the news about a month ago. Miss Giuffre was involved in a crash, a traffic accident with a bus near that rural property where she lives, and was hospitalised. She posted to Instagram telling her followers that she only had days to live, and there was an outpouring of concern around that. And then
so I guess it was like a month ago now, but yeah, maybe things are heating up, and she does have the money for it. Like, that kind of thing does cost money. You know, if it's not like federally decided or whatever, and you decide to do it yourself, it does cost a lot of money. So whether she did it or wanted to do it for herself, or it was suggested by FBI or whatever, after that accident, and for what that was, and getting in that random bus accident near her rural property, like, it just seemed kind of suspicious all on its own, right? So I'm really hoping, I want to lean to the side of that she's gone into witness protection. And yeah, there was something to do with a DV case with the husband, and I guess she had lost custody of her kids. Deborah, can you confirm that? I don't know. I didn't read about that. I didn't see about that. So obviously things are heating up. You know, like, there's something else going on, and who's to say she wasn't trying to leave the husband, and somebody offered the husband some money to cause some problems, because it's her money, I guess, like, from the settlement, right? But I don't really know who the husband was. Shit. And who's to say? I don't know. But, like, not even a lot of Australians or people that were saying, like, last night they were saying, oh, like, this isn't even in the news, like, we didn't even know about this, and it was daytime for them, where it was nighttime for us, and we're all up, like, all over it, on the west side here. But then people in Australia, it wasn't even really on their news. So it's like, on one hand, so broadcasted certain things about the case, but then not others, right? I'm just going to look this up really quick. Here, we'll continue with the clip, and I'm going to look up about the kids, because I guess that could give us reason that she would not want to be alive anymore. She had just gone through an accident, and, like, somebody was taking her kids away. Like, that's maybe gives a little more of a reasoning, but yeah, I don't know. There's obviously, they're going to give you some different information, though, that's going to make it a little fishy, and kind of distract you too, right? Like, you really got to know which direction to look in, right?
Interestingly, there were accounts from police and the hospital where she was that contradicted those claims by her, that her injuries were perhaps more minor. We did did later hear from her publicist and others saying that she was unwell, though.
Okay, and the other line came out of Australia overnight was her father, Sky Roberts, saying that Virginia was going through a messy divorce and no longer lives with her husband. So that obviously also may have contributed to how she was feeling at the time. Is there any news on that story?
We know that Virginia Giuffre does have other family who live here in Perth and her ex-husband, and she has 3 children who survive her. They were described in that statement from the family as the lights of her life. That's Christian, Noah, and Emily, and she has often said that she took inspiration from them during times of adversity when she was coming out with her story of being a victim of sex trafficking. And they remain here in Perth, and we saw some well-wishers and loved ones visiting them at their family home today, people arriving with cakes and things like that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Wow. Yeah, like, I guess there's obviously so much more going on with it than we know. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that they named the children publicly. That's a little bit dangerous too. Like, if she is in danger and the kids might be in danger, I don't know why they would mention that. I didn't realize they were going to, or I wouldn't have played it all the way through there. But I guess it's out there anyway. Whether I would have, it's just out there. They put it out there. Can you guys hear me? It's doing something weird again. All the technicals. It's saying excellent connection on one hand, but then it's saying YouTube's not receiving enough data. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Does everything seem okay on your end? Yeah, you guys can hear? Okay. Alright, we'll just continue here. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they mentioned that for being the kind of case that it is, and like I said, it could be putting the kids in danger, so that kind of bothers me a little bit, but yeah, well, that's it. Like, you don't know if it's smear campaigns or it's like some of the information that's put out, it could be just to distract and to diffuse from people wanting to look any closer at the case itself and being more caught up in the drama and gossip of her life, right?
That is 7 News Perth reporter James Connolly. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, well, it was a bit of a shocking story. I woke up and it was an instant reaction because I've covered this story from day one. Obviously, everyone in this country very, very aware of who Virginia Giuffre is. She accused that infamous picture which you saw on your screens there of Prince Andrew standing in a flat, Ghislaine Maxwell's flat, wasn't it, with his arm around Virginia there. Andrew denies having any knowledge of meeting her. He did pay an out-of-court settlement to her, but she has fought fiercely for the victims of sex trafficking. And as we know, Epstein took his own life in prison. Prince Andrew denies any wrongdoing in anything connected to this story. So let's see what my panel make of this. Political commentator Matthew Stadlen and former UKIP leader Henry Bolton. Henry, I was a bit shocked by this news when I woke up this morning and it broke. She was only 41 years old. She has been, since she got involved in the Prince Andrew case, a fierce campaigner for the victims of sex trafficking and speaking out about girls that went through the same experience she did. She was 17 years old.
Well, and that's the thing too, I guess, is like Australia's a little bit closer to, like, it's closer to the UK than we are anyways, so you think she's far enough away from the US, so she would have been safe, but not necessarily, because one of the main people, and that's still walking around and free, that just paid the settlement, was Prince Andrew, and she obviously wasn't going to stop talking about it. It continued being brought into people's faces, right? So, I mean, and not to point any fingers or make any accusations, or, I'm just a speculation of, like, it seems like she would have been safe being so far away from the U.S., but I guess there could have been threats coming in from there. Because obviously we can see how quick the BBC is to cover up anything about Prince Andrew to do with this, so.
when she alleges she was forced by Epstein to sleep with Prince Andrew at least 3 times, including in this country and in America, where it was illegal. What did you make of the news when you heard it?
Very sad, tragic. I can't say that I'm necessarily surprised because I don't know the case. I mean, I've not got any personal knowledge like most of us. And there's been so much over the years that sifting the wheat from the chaff, is just really very difficult. And I think, so with that caveat, I think this is a tragedy, clearly. And I think probably in that process, kind of went along with things that maybe in later life she regretted. She's had to live with in any case.
Oh my God. Okay. What is this guy trying to say? That she had gone along with it and that she put herself in that position? I don't really like the way he's talking about it or how he's going about it. She had lost her kids and split from her husband and was due in court any time now. Interesting. Well, and that's the problem with some of these people that are getting attacked and that, the gang stalking and threats and intimidation and all this stuff going on. It can definitely make somebody seem a little crazy and on edge, and then it's so much easier to discredit them. And if the husband decided he didn't want to be a part of it anymore and wanted to take the kids, and then it just makes it even more chaos for her, more of a mental turmoil. So, and yeah, that, who knows that if he really understands the situation and how much danger, and is going to be protecting the kids properly, and obviously the news doesn't get it because they just named all the kids right on live news, so, and all over in Britain. I guess. I think this is a global Britain news, actually, now that I think about it. GB, maybe. They are speaking a little British. I don't know. I was trying to find more of, the local, Australian news, the stuff that would be... The audio's cutting out. Now it says it's an excellent connection. It says it's fine. And now it's saying that now you're telling me the audio's cutting in and out? Can you hear me now? Is it still cutting out? How about now? It should be fine now. It's saying excellent connection now. I'm gonna just give it a second before I continue. I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay, does it seem okay? Yeah, I'm gonna, I refreshed the thing, and it's saying excellent connection now, but there is a delay, so I have to, wait an extra minute till you guys catch up. Let me go ahead, I'm gonna play the clip. I think it's fine now, but it's just, there's a delay.
The sort of mental health pressure that results in is not going to be easy to live with, and perhaps even relationships afterwards are going to be difficult to manage inevitably. And I think there are a lot of, actually, sadly, young women and perhaps young men as well in the world today, partly as a result of sort of some of the internet sort of stuff that's going around, that maybe are falling into a similar sort of trap. And it's not necessarily, it's a sort of, I don't want to say willing exploitation, because exploitation is exploitation.
She was 17.
There's
the men involved were in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, but so there's unquestionably an element of that, but there's also an element perhaps of wanting to enter that world because it seems to be glamorous when in fact it's abusive and exploitative.
I don't think this guy gets how all this works, for sure. This guy's kind of bothering me a little bit. But I mean, he's kind of, I don't know, maybe his information's a little bit skewed. I don't know. I don't want to speak badly about other media people or whatever, but yeah, I don't think he understands how pervasive this stuff is. Like, if they're given promise of, it's not even that it's like the glamour of it all, it's they're coming from a broken home, a dysfunctional home. Is it cutting out, like, actually, or is it just some of you guys? Maybe everybody refresh and come back. Yeah, it might be on your end, guys. It might just be something going on with the app or something. Just refresh. So it seems like it's fine. Everything's showing fine on my end. And it might be just the delay from when it looked like it was having an issue a bit ago and I fixed it, but there's a delay, right? So I'm ahead of where you guys are actually hearing. Okay. But yeah, I don't like the way that this guy's talking about it because, like, they're kind of lured in such a way because they're, coming from broken homes or they're in a desperate situation. And if they're promised, like, help with their education or a job opportunity, which is kind of what it seemed like with a lot of them to get them in, or, like, modeling opportunities, stuff like that. If they're given all these different promises of a better life, it's not that it's the glamour. It's that they've struggled their entire life and they're looking for a leg up. And people take advantage of that. People in power take advantage of that, right?
So I think there's a broader issue there.
And she was a child, exactly. Also that, like, it's the adults taking advantage of the naivety of a child. So I mean, above all else, thank you, Veronica. Exactly, you're right. But from his standpoint of what he's saying, like, it's not about the glamour of it all. It's not anything like that. It's that it's vulnerable people in a vulnerable situation, and their kids, and their young teens, right? Or maybe later teens, like 17 or whatever some of them were, but if they're meeting them at 14, 15, 16, and by 17 they're doing awful things to them, that's all part of the grooming process too, right? Like, it all seems fine to start. It seems like they're delivering on their promises and they are helping with education or whatever, So who knows exactly how they lure them, but it's even worse that it's children. It's even worse, like, or young teens, right?
And so a tragedy, but not altogether surprising, I think, because she's not lived an easy life. Her life has been a very hard and difficult one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matthew, what do you think this means? Once again, the spotlight is back on Prince Andrew. Virginia alleged she had sex with Andrew 3 times in London during a 2001 trip, at Epstein's New York mansion when she was 17, and in the Virgin Islands when she was 18. Andrew denies all these allegations and denies even meeting her. But the spotlight is once again now with Virginia putting the story back in the spotlight.
Denies meeting her, but then he's got all the excuses. Like, we can't play the clips, but he was basically saying, oh yeah, like, I couldn't be at the club because I was having pizza with my daughter. Like, so you're having pizza with your daughter at like 11 p.m.? First off. Secondly, he was like, yeah, no, like, I can't sweat because I had a war injury. Like, something to do with adrenals. Like, they kept mentioning adrenals, too, and I thought that was a little bit suspicious for different reasons. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but he was trying to say, oh, but I can't even sweat. So first it was, yeah, I never met her, and then I can't even sweat. Like, so he's, like, making excuses, but then, because I guess Virginia had talked about how his dancing was atrocious, and he was sweating all over her, and she was definitely not interested, but she felt pressured to satisfy and gratify him because Epstein and Ghislaine had so much control over her life and her finances and all of that, and she felt obligated to do what they asked her to do by that point. She'd been groomed into that situation. Comment on the school bus? Yeah, like, well, she was, I guess it was about a month ago now that she was in an accident, like a bus had hit her car, and she apparently was in critical condition, and she pulled through that and seemed like everything was fine. So I definitely think it's pretty suspicious when you consider that, and that now this, right? And then, he said he didn't remember. He thinks he would have remembered because it would have been a positive experience for him. It basically is what he's saying, but it's like she's saying that you forced yourself on her and that it was not wanted, it was unwanted, and he was saying, oh, I think I would remember because it would have been positive for me, and just a lot of stuff. Like, he was saying how he didn't regret meeting Epstein because he was good, he taught him things in business and life and so on and so forth. So yeah, everything he was saying was pretty awful, and No wonder they don't want people to see those clips, though, I guess. Like, it's a kind of a disgrace of the royal family or whatever, you know? Yeah, I don't know if there's clips of the bus. And he said thank you, exactly. And he said thank you before he left. What a guy. And then, the fact, like, it just kind of runs in the family. Like, Prince Charles, well, now King Charles or whatever, was good buddies with Jimmy Savile, and that guy was a total creep. She was due in court for abusing her husband, and the kids were taken away. So, obviously, they're cranking up the heat, though. Like, obviously, things were getting stressful. I don't know. Like, I'd have to read more into that specifically, but who knows if, like, you never know who's paid to do what one way or the other, or what information is good and what isn't, you know? Like, because all this is coming to a head, a lot of things are going to be coming out that are a distraction and aren't factual too, right? So, I don't know. I'd have to look into more of that specifically, but I don't really want to comment on it without fully understanding. But I do think that it was a high tense situation, and it's really easy for people around you to not fully understand what you're going through if it is in fact like a gang stalking situation, and you're facing different types of threats and intimidation around that is like, it's you seem like you're going crazy when you're going through that kind of thing. So who's to say what that did to the dynamic of that relationship, and what else was going on behind the scenes. But obviously she's been through a lot, and there was obviously still a lot more going on. And so, like, I just don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to read into it more to know enough about it. He sent a picture of the bus, like on Telegram. One sec. Oh, so she was like turning onto her rural road, and the bus sideswiped her. Yeah. Well, at least it was like, and I guess, I don't know, they drive on the other side though, so I guess that was the driver's side that got hit, right? Maybe we'll bring that up, and I'll drop it in with the tweets and stuff, but okay, hold on, let me catch up with you guys here. You personally... And what's up, Christian? Personally don't think there was ever a bus accident, nor do I think she claimed that there was. Of course, I could be wrong, but my gut says they were planning on taking her out, or had already. Yeah, well, that's it. Like, this is, like, I'm just, like, exactly. Like, there's so many different details that you never really know if it's good information or not, especially if it's coming out of, all the way on the other side of the world. How would anybody over here know for sure? And then a lot of people there were saying, oh, they hadn't even heard about the death, right? So... it definitely seems fishy. The whole situation seems fishy, and whether they were preparing to do something to her, or it was, the first thing that happened was like kind of like a warning that obviously somebody is trying to take her out, so they put her into witness protection or what have you. I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's like but they do that on purpose, they give you so many different details, and they have so many other things going on in the background that it distracts from the main thing, right? Like, that's what happens in a lot of these cases. Like, people forget that we're talking about kids on an island being forced, trespassed upon, and harmed. That's what they're trying to distract from. You get lost in all these different details. We forget what the whole point is, right? And that happens in so many cases, in so many situations. And that's how they've been keeping it under the rug for so many years. They seal certain data, they seal certain records, they throw some distraction out there, and then people get so caught up in that they forget what we were talking about to begin with,
Back on Andrew.
I can't speak for Prince Andrew, who, as you say, denies everything.
Please do.
But this is a really, really sad story, isn't it? This is someone who says that she was sexually exploited, sexually abused.
Is the audio still messed up, or can you guys hear good now? So I'm still getting some messages that the audio is really messed up. Are we good now? I think we're good. It seems like everything's good now.
And anyone who was involved in that will be feeling, I hope, great remorse today. And if her life stands for anything in public, which it does, beyond obviously the very important personal relationships, not least her family that
she's got 3 children,
has had in her life, exactly, then her life stands as a fearless campaigner against sexual exploitation and sexual abuse of girls and women.
I mean, this shadow, just quickly, we do need to move on, but just quickly, Henry, this shadow will never leave Andrew. Well, you can't actually think about Prince Andrew in any way, shape, or form without thinking about Epstein and the scandals around him. Do you think it's time he stood up to the plate and did something to clear his name, as he would say?
I don't think in many people's minds he will ever be able to clear his name on this. I think this Virginia's suicide probably ensures that he'll never be able to clear his name. In his own mind.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something with the app sometimes, something with the chat every once in a while too. You got to go out and come back. So if you're having audio issues, just go out and come back in, like refresh it, because it's all looking good on my end too. It was kind of funky a little bit ago, but it looks like it fixed it. So it might just be you're catching up too. If you're not all the way caught up, you might be a little bit behind. So that part is going to be a bit of an issue, but then
whatever went on, as well as in the minds of many members of the public. But that said, I think there is a great deal, there is a very strong argument. If I was a friend of Prince Andrew's, which I'm not, but if I was, I would be saying, look, either just disappear from public life, just live your life and try and make of it what you do, or become a campaigner for something really good. That's going to be very hard because a lot of people are going to be, very, very sceptical of it and think that you're just trying to atone for past wrongs or whatever. But nonetheless, you are in a position where you could do some good. Perhaps even.
I mean, he has largely disappeared from public life, hasn't he? And he was stripped of his HRH title.
We saw him at church.
We did.
And that's why I said he's partly been pushed into that, but he's also submitted to that. He's not tried to be in the public.
And I said largely because, as you say, we did see him at that Easter service. I think it was the first time we'd seen him for about a year.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting too. Like he finally comes back into the public eye after all this time because he made kind of a fool of himself, and he shows up to the Easter thing, and then it's like a week later or whatever, and this, like, I don't know, something smells fishy there, that's for damn sure.
But you ask him to go out or suggest that he might go out and try and clear his name. He did try to do that, didn't he? And that infamous Newsnight interview, and that was widely seen as catastrophic and probably led to him being, or was part of what led to him being stripped of his title.
Yeah. Maybe he could go to America and answer the questions that they want to ask him out there. What do you...
Yeah. That was pretty catastrophic, all right. I was like, who is his PR people? Like, who set him up for this? Like, did they not brief him at all? Like... And obviously, let it go the way it's going to go, make a freaking fool of himself. But I was kind of shocked. That was pretty shocking. Yeah, I know about that video. I actually used a clip of that in my John Bonet video. I did a whole two-part documentary on that. And there's still part 3 coming at some point, but things keep coming up here, so I'm still trying to juggle through. But I definitely got to wrap that up soon too, because there is a part 3.
One of the most prominent accusers of convicted sex offender and trafficker Jeffrey Epstein has died. Giuffre was also an accuser of Prince Andrew. She said that he sexually exploited her as a teenager. Now, she has died by suicide on her farm in Australia, and that information is coming to us from her family. We get more details from CBC's Anna Cunningham.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I guess I just wanted to catch up with any of the news that hadn't aired yet last night, and just if there was any new details. So some of this might get a little bit repetitive, but you get different details coming out in different news. Like, some people think it's certain details are more important than others. Like, some news sources will focus on certain things, while others will give you different details. So definitely, I think it's worth checking out. even if it does get a little repetitive here. But then, yeah, we'll dig into some of these other articles and about the Epstein stuff, and then what the survivors are saying now too. So. So I do apologize, though. Some of it might be a little repetitive, but I think it's all important to see what's being said from different sources.
Virginia Giuffre was the first and most publicly vocal accuser of the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender, the late Jeffrey Epstein. Back in 2019, she went public with allegations that Epstein and his then girlfriend, the former British socialite and now convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell, trafficked her around the world as a sex slave. This was her speaking outside court in New York in 2019.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice.
Amongst the allegations was her claim that Epstein and Maxwell had also trafficked her when she was aged 17 to Prince Andrew, the Duke of York.
Which also, let's not forget, guys, what Mar-a-Lago is. I don't think a lot of people put that together, and I don't know if it's important or not, or if we're really allowed to talk about it, because who owns that and spends the most time there, but the Mar-a-Lago, a lot of the young girls had been recruited from there, and Epstein had a mansion like 4 minutes up the road from there. There was a huge bust, Florida bust. You know, there's so many other things going on that I just don't know how to prove, or, you know, if it proves one way or another the truth of anything, you know. Because in some cases, somebody might just be trying to get rid of their competition and not actually really fixing the problem, you know?
He has always strenuously denied the allegations. In 2022, the prince reached an out-of-court settlement with her without admitting any liability or guilt. She never saw Epstein face trial. He died in a New York prison in 2019 by suicide whilst awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. But Maxwell was found guilty. She is currently serving a 20-year term at a Florida prison. Virginia Giuffre was a mother of 3. She died on her farm in Western Australia. In a statement, her family say it is with utterly broken hearts that she...
Is it? I don't think it is. It was there not long ago, the true crime design. But yeah, like there was certain parts that they went pretty hard on that I don't know if it was so safe to do that. Like it might have been considered too much on the air of conspiracy theory, perhaps, or something like that. It might have been against the policy. Because I try to go more so into the factual, like here's what the documented facts, here's what we know that is a real thing, you know, like for sure, here's people talking about this, that, the other thing, you know, so I used a little clip from there, but not, like, I think she went pretty hard on that, like, she went right for the jugular. Yeah, no, that's just what it is, but that's why I don't rely on other people's stuff to, like, you know, like, I do my own research, and I try to make sure I've got all my own sources, and I can support things, and, like, sometimes I'll use little snippets here and there, depending on the topic or whatever. Yeah, it's very similar. Like, there's a lot of similar parallels to how, like I was saying about the National Security Act of 1947, that applied to the John Bonet case, that applied to the McMartin case, that applied to the Kathy O'Brien case. You know, everything that she was alleging, and for her daughter, like, there was so much going on, especially in the 80s, 90s, you know, all this stuff, that was just getting covered up. One of the reports disappeared? Which reports?
Lost her life to suicide. They describe her as a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. They also say she was the light that lifted so many survivors. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Oh, yeah, the husband was DV situation against her. I thought, maybe I read it wrong when you said it at first. I thought you were trying to say that she had abused the husband. And I was like, I don't know. That's maybe, could be, but like obviously she's been through a lot, and obviously, you know, when it comes to gang stalking and different kinds of cyber terrorism, you know, you never know what kind of it puts a lot of it makes tension, you know, it makes a lot of tension and stress. Oh yeah. Yeah, because anybody that was using any clips of the Prince Andrew thing, that it was like from that specific interview, it seems that they're taking it all down pretty quick. So,
Described as a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse, Virginia Giuffre was one of the most vocal accusers.
Oh, the Ghislaine Maxwell thing? I did end up finding that clip, if that's what you're talking about. I'm trying to think of which clip you might be talking about. Because I think maybe I did end up finding that one, but that's okay. It just is what it is, and that's why it's important to, you know, document things along the way and try to archive things as much as you can, and just, keep your eyes wide open.
Of the late financier Jeffrey Epstein and the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice.
Her family confirming the 41-year-old died by suicide on Friday.
Yeah, I agree, Christian. It is strange that they right away are saying that it's a suicide and that they don't consider it foul play or suspicious by any means, even if there was a note. Yeah, I agree. And they're not really being specific about how they're able to confirm this and what that's based on, because like so many situations it can look like they've done it to themselves, but you know, like, I don't know. But then again, people can be paid off again too, like different corners and law enforcement, especially from small rural areas. You just, you know, like $5, $10, $15, $20,000 a lot to people that are living in a little town and just kind of doing their thing, you know. So you just, you never know. You never know.
Friday night at her property 80 kilometres north of Perth in the Shire of Gingin. In a statement, they said she'll be remembered for her courage and loving spirit, but in the end, the heavy toll of the alleged abuse became unbearable. Miss Giuffre alleged she was trafficked for sex to the Duke of York by Epstein on several occasions when she was a teenager in the early 2000s. A settlement was reached in 2022 in a civil case brought by Miss Giuffre against Prince Andrew, which saw him stripped of his honorary titles. The Duke has repeatedly denied the allegations. WA police say her death is being investigated by major crime detectives, but is not being treated as suspicious.
Yeah, like they've got like a half a second of the clip of his interview, but like that's it, because like even the other news people probably can't share that interview with Prince Andrew. That's the interview that I was talking about just a minute ago, that he just like totally bombed it.
Suspicious at this stage. Children, Christian, Noah and Emily, who her family say were the light of her life. Grace Burmis, ABC News.
I don't know why they would keep talking about the kids. Like, do they not realize, like, I guess none of these people actually realize the danger that's involved in this kind of thing and the lengths people will go to silence other people. And I just, wow, I don't know.
Virginia Giuffre spent her life fighting to expose the crimes of billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and his entourage. Her death only serves to sharpen the cost of what she endured.
I want to start by saying it's not how Jeffrey died, but it's how he lived. I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silent.
They're all using like the same clip. I'm gonna just skip this a little bit, so we know what she's saying. But I kind of like that they're all focusing and wanting to remind everybody over here that, like in North America, where she was trafficked from, where a lot of the girls were taken from, or found and groomed from, or lured from. I think it's important that we talk about that. It's not an easy one. We can't necessarily just come right out and say things or make accusations, but it's interesting that that there's been no focus on that whatsoever when that's such a big part of it. Like, that's, I feel like that's important information.
To justice.
Giuffre's testimony was key to exposing Epstein's crimes and that of his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. But here in the UK, she was best known for her claim that she was sexually abused by Prince Andrew when she was just 17 years old. Prince Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing. The two reached a financial settlement in 2022 with no admission of liability. Miss Giuffre was just a teenager when she said she met Maxwell whilst working at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. She claimed Maxwell and Epstein trafficked her around the world to rich and powerful men. Epstein died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Maxwell was later sentenced to 20 years in prison.
She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did. She was vicious, she was evil, and she was a woman.
One lawyer for several of Epstein's victims described Giuffre's legacy.
She stood up for what she believed in. She stood up for her truth, and she held very powerful, very wealthy people accountable for their actions. And I think the arc of time will show that justice really weighed in her favor.
Yeah, I think they definitely that too. Like, they glaze over that a lot too, but like, women can be just as guilty in these kinds of cases. Like, that more recent interview with Ghislaine, and actually maybe I'll put it up again. We'll watch it again here in a bit. I'll put it on the track with the other survivor clips and the tweets and stuff. But Ghislaine was kind of saying, like, oh, like, I wish I never met Epstein and he was the worst thing that happened to me, kind of thing, and like, as if he had lured her into this life, but she was just as complicit in it. Like, she was just as participatory, and she was all part of it, So I think we need to, like, focus on that as well when these sorts of things happen in these cases, because people give women such a free pass almost because they're women, and how could they do that? Like, they're not that way, but in some cases they are worse because of they're more of, like, about the psychological violence, psychological and emotional violence, and like diabolical even, with some certain things, so like, we definitely can't ignore that, and we definitely, I think that was part of it, is that she was kind of revealing of that, Virginia was, of like more the inner workings, that some of the women maybe were victims in their youth, but then at some point they became more participants, like willing participants, and especially having come from money, and like, she had power, there was nothing that she was being led into, you know what I mean, where all these other girls were being led in with promises of helping their life and career and modeling career, whatever. Like, they were given promises of getting into that life, where Ghislaine was already in it, so what was she led into it by, if not wanting to be part of it, right? Yeah, exactly, Veronica. Also that, yeah, with Kathy O'Brien, she had mentioned that Hillary is a situation.
And, when looking back at her life and this story many years into the future, we'll see that she was the hero of this story.
In recent years, Giuffre built a new life in Australia, marrying and raising 3 children. But behind the scenes, her struggles continued. In a viral Instagram post just 3 weeks ago, she claimed she'd just days to live following a car crash. But Australian police described the incident as minor. Today, her family confirmed she took her own life, saying, "There are no words that can express the grave loss we feel today with the passing of our sweet Virginia. She was heroic and will always be remembered for her incredible courage and loving spirit. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. We know that she is with the angels." She was just 41 years old, a survivor, a crusader, but a wounded woman with scars she carried to the end. Matthew Thompson, Sky News.
Yeah, like from what you guys are saying,
Oh my gosh, I was 14 years.
from what you guys were saying, the thing with the husband, it almost seems like he was compromised. That they got to him, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, some people can be bought. Some people can be given promises of different things. You know, like there's ways. Like, how do they get people's parents basically handing off their kids? And like, there's different layers to it and different levels of depravity that people will submit to. You really never know who you can trust. Like, maybe they had a very loving relationship and everything was really good for however long. But you never know. Or the threats. There could have been threats. Like, there's different ways to coerce and intimidate people into doing certain things that they don't necessarily want to do either. So I would hate to think that the husband had just fully turned on her and started causing ruckus in her life after everything she went through. So, I mean, I'd be more apt to believe that he's compromised. Yeah, well, some people, Cassie believes that Trump's helping too, and I mean, I want to believe that. I want to believe that he's part of the good fight, and he has revealed a lot of things and opened up some cans of worms, but I'm more on the, in my opinion, it's more of a, how do I even say this without getting spanked here? I think it's more like the war on drugs. You know, there was a lot of stuff revealed when the DEA went in trying to clean up the streets or trying to clean up certain areas, and it just turned out that they just took over those operations. Like, they were just eliminating the competition and taking over the operation. So my concern is that Trump is just doing that versus actually wanting to clean the swamp, you know, and being that he was really close with Epstein for a long time. He says, like, there's a clip of him somewhere where he's like, I've known him for 15 years. He's a terrific guy. And like, they had properties right up next door to each other. Epstein's mansion, the one mansion was 4 minutes up the road from Mar-a-Lago, and many of the girls were lured from Mar-a-Lago. And when Epstein didn't end his own life, which many people believe that he didn't do it to himself, but you know, whatever the narrative is that you want to believe, it's all the power to you. But after that mansion got demolished. Somebody paid $18 million to buy the mansion just to demo it, and saying that they were going to develop it or something, but then they didn't. They just turned around and sold it again. So it was like they were so quick to demo it. And we know people have been talking about different tunnel systems, and there can be underwater entrances and exits, and like just tunnels in general. And so a tunnel between the two, it would be like a 10-minute walk, something like that. I'd have to double check, but definitely 4 minutes drive between each other. So I don't know. I want to believe that he's doing the right thing and that he's a good guy, but I just don't know. It just seems like it's a bunch of bad guys in competition with each other. Like, that's kind of always been my belief when it comes to politics and the people pulling the strings, because really politicians are just meat puppets at the end of the day, in my opinion. You know, it's the 1% that pulls the strings. It's corporations and people that control all the wealth, the resources, they control the media, they control it's like, what, six companies control everything? And 13 families, something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's airing too much on the conspiracy theory. Like, definitely do your own research, draw your own conclusions on that. But that was a while ago, so things maybe are different now. I can't say for sure. Different people have risen to power too, as far as like with Musk. You know, he's pretty wealthy and pretty powerful, but he's not like a trillionaire. But we have trillionaires, so. Who's really pulling all the strings at the end of the day? So, like, you know, maybe Trump wants to have good intentions and wants to make these promises, but whether or not he's able to follow through or not is a whole other thing too. Because maybe he's like, well, you know, yeah, we were buddies and we knew each other, but he was never involved in underage situations, so maybe he's not worried about releasing the files, and that's what he wants to do. But then if different powers that be are blocking the files from being released, and then it's just looking bad on Pam Bondi or whatever and Trump. You know, like, there's always the front man's the guys that's going to be the fall guy when things go down, you know, when things fall through. Same with the Diddy situation. He's kind of just the fall guy. But where were all these young people coming from, and where was the investors? Who were the investors? Who was really pulling the strings, right? So we just always got to be looking at the overall big picture, and not getting lost on too many of the littler details, because that's what they want. They want people tripping over all the little details and not looking at the whole overall, right?
years old.
This is everything.
Oh shit, it's the mute. Okay, stupid mute button. Yep, sorry guys. That one was for real this time. I'm talking to myself. That's alright, we'll just continue here. I'm gonna just focus on the victims though. I don't know where you guys heard last. I moved my mic and sometimes I hit the mute by accident. I don't know where I left off that you guys, what you would have heard and not heard, so I guess we'll just continue here, but there's so much going on that you just don't know if it's going to the right place. Like, there's so many things that are operating, so much evil operating under the guise of good, so you just really don't know. You really can't be sure, and I want to believe, like I said, I want to believe that people are trying to do the right things, but there's a lot of instances where good things were meant to happen and never did, and it just turns out a lot of bad things happened, you know, with the Haiti thing. And, like, the Clintons are tied in with this, too. So it's like, obviously, there's so much more going on behind the scenes that they don't really want people to look at. They want people to get distracted and looking at certain little things. But, yeah, we just got to keep our eyes open here.
The only solace for me is that when a group of people who have experienced trauma of this kind come together united against a common enemy, there's a very special bond between us all.
A painful bond shared among these 6 women sitting together for the first time for an exclusive interview with NBC News.
I find it very comforting to be here.
Marika Chartouni, Anushka DeGiorgio, and Rachel K. Benavidez sharing their stories about Epstein for the first time on television.
I think the nature of this kind of abuse means that you're conditioned to be silent, to be isolated, secretive, and shameful.
I feel like, you know, it was a big game for him, and we were the pieces of his game.
And you're like, I'm just not going to say anything because that's what he told me to do.
The women all have familiar stories of grooming, promises, and then sexual assault.
I can relate to pretty much every person sitting here next to me.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre says Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her one summer when she was working as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago. In her first broadcast interview, Virginia tells NBC News what she has previously alleged in court filings, that Epstein directed her to also have sex with a number of powerful men, among them Britain's Prince Andrew.
He was an abuser. He was a participant.
Virginia says she was 17 when this photo was taken with the prince in Maxwell's London townhome, next to the bathroom where she says he sexually abused her. What happened?
The first time in London, I was so young. Keelan woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today." I didn't know at that point that I was going to be trafficked to that prince. And then that night, Prince Andrew came to her house in London, and we went out to Club Tramp. Prince Andrew got me alcohol. It was in the VIP section. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. Prince Andrew was like, "Let's dance together." And I was like, okay. And we leave.
This might be some of the clips we're not going to be able to. Hold on. Yeah, we don't want to get this blocked. So actually, yeah, this one I think it's got too many clips from the, maybe not. I think it does play a clip though from it. Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe this is good. It's not from with the NBC people. Maybe. Let me just check. No, maybe this one's okay. Alright, we just gotta be careful, because, like, yeah. Or I guess if it does, like, I don't know. We'll just, at least we get it out there while we're doing it, but, you know what, actually, we already played that one, so we'll just go to the next Survivor story here. Because I just, you know, it's better that it gets out here rather than, ending up having it blocked.
Oh my gosh, I was 14 years old. Like, what the hell do you know when you're that young?
Jennifer Arose grew up in New York with dreams of becoming a Broadway actress. She was thrilled when she was accepted to a performing arts high school in the city. And it was outside that school back in 2001, she says, a woman first approached her.
She was definitely trying to get to know me, trying to find out, you know, where I was from, where I grew up, you know, who I lived with.
Arose says the woman kept showing up, talking to her, sometimes offering to buy her lunch or a soda.
The first time she brought up the name Jeffrey Epstein, how did she describe him to you?
Dave was just a great guy. He's just saying, like, you know, he's helped me. I've struggled. Like, she was similar to me.
Did she say he could help you with your career?
That was a big part of it.
And when you think of her now, you used the phrase, you said the recruiter. You felt like she was looking for someone for him.
100%, yeah.
Arose says the recruiter brought her to Epstein's townhouse, just blocks from the school.
When you first met him, what did you think? What did he say?
Very nice. Basically saying that, you know, he's heard a lot about me. You know, the recruiter was talking such nice things.
Arose says she was served wine in Epstein's kitchen, and they talked. When she left, she says she was given $300 and was repeatedly invited back.
The secretary would contact me
and say,
"Are you free? Can you come by? You know, Epstein would like to see you."
She became familiar with the eccentricities inside Epstein's home.
There was like a lot of artwork that had insinuated nudity with women, and I remember very suggestive. We had like a bathtub that was kind of like opened, and there was prosthetic breasts that he could play with while he was taking a bath, I guess. It was very odd. And the painting that was literally like the massage table would be here, and this painting would be right here. And it was a very pretty naked woman, and he used to always say that I look like her.
She says
it's like just so much depravity. Like, what is wrong in your life if that needs to be the focal point of your whole life? Like, it's kind of going too far, you know? Like, even just that should be kind of like a red flag for most people. You know, I mean, I'm not going to judge people on what kind of art, decor, whatever stuff they're going to want, but, like, that definitely seems like it's more on the line of just kind of depraved, like, deviant, you know? You just, like, cannot be, like, insatiable almost. So, like, what's empty and missing in your life if that's the focal point of your life? Like, you can have anything and go anywhere and do anything. You know, so is that maybe part of it, though, that when you can have anything and go anywhere and do anything and have all the money and all the power in the world, then you want the things that you're not necessarily supposed to have, maybe. Like, maybe that pushes somebody to a point. Like, so maybe there's some kind of sickness that comes with having that kind of level of power and invincibility in a way, you know? Like, it just seems like it pushes that line of depravity till it's gone too far, you know?
After a few weeks of visits, she was escorted alone to what she says Epstein called his favorite room in the house, the massage room, and things turned physical.
In that moment, it didn't.
At that moment, yes.
Strange to you.
But at the same time, I was scared too because I didn't know if he would get angry, or so I kind of just followed. I would have just my underwear on because that's how he liked it. So, and I would just get massages back, and then he would potentially later on turn over and play with himself, and he would also like when I would play with his nipples. He used to get turned on by that. And then he would finish himself off, and then that would be the end of it. And he would still give me the 300, you know, and normally I would either get it from the secretary, would leave it in a drawer in the massage room.
How often do you think
it was
you
like
were there?
Yeah, like once a week, twice a week, my freshman year.
Did you ever tell him your age?
I told the recruiter, I've mentioned it in front of him, yes.
You're 14 years old.
Yeah, he knew very well my age. He knew exactly, you know, who he was hanging out with, you know. I don't think he cared.
When Rose turned 15, she says things took a turn.
You know, just take your underwear off and get on top. And I said I didn't want to. And he, you know, very forcefully kind of brought me into the table, and I just did what he told me to do. I was really scared. I didn't necessarily think that he was, you know, going to rape me.
Did he hold you there?
Yeah.
No question in your mind, he knew you did not want that to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely, yeah. There was no way. I was like, I don't want to say I was screaming or anything of that nature, but I was.
Well, and above all else, like, children can't consent, right? So regardless, it's a forced situation. It's taking advantage, and then using that leverage of having the money. And then I'm guessing she's talking about the other recruiter, because there was this other teenager recruiter. But it's like when you have people that are well groomed and you've trained them up and you got them in living in fear enough and intimidation enough, like, then they'll kind of go ahead with it. But you can't necessarily, like, that's still another young person, you know, like, they're a victim, you know, too, at some point. But then it's like we were talking last night about, but then where do you draw the line? If you get to a certain point in adulthood and you realize and you try to do, you know, go back and be a witness and do something about it, versus Ghislaine seeming like she was just, like, in there like a dirty shirt the whole time, right? Because, like, she's tried to come forward saying that she too was a victim, but there's definitely different layers to that when you've gone all the way until he's got caught, that you have a problem where all these other girls are coming forward, and that's why he's gotten caught. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. But that sort of, it just shows the vicious cycle of it all, and when they're being groomed to serve elites, like, it's a different level of power and coercion and the way that they go about it. But it's all still bad, you know, just because he was giving her a ton of money and helping her perhaps with her career and helping her perhaps with, you know, whichever. It doesn't mean that it's okay that he was able to, like, that he should have been allowed to get away with all this shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of getting me fired up a little bit. But, this is sort of, it's like the same program, the same playbook. It's just different layers, different levels. You know, not everybody has all the money and the power, but they do have different ways of grooming and getting people into that kind of life. And then this is how a lot of people end up on the street, you know, when doing sex work and stuff like that, is because they were abused or vulnerable as kids and manipulated and programmed in such a way that they believe that's all they're good for, that that's all they're going to be able to do with their life. And because a lot of them missed out on education, or a lot of them missed out on any other real opportunities, you know, because they've gotten sucked into that life and being promised all these things. But then, you know, it ends up being that they're just there to service these nasty old men, right? So... yeah, exactly, Concan. You know, for sure. But then where do you draw the line, right?
Terrified, and I was telling him to stop. Please stop, you know.
And did he?
No, he did not stop. He had no intentions of stopping, and That's what he wanted. That's what he got.
When you left there, you never went back.
After that day, no, I never went back. I was terrified. I was really scared because I didn't want that to happen again.
And you left school. Did you leave the school because it was in the same neighborhood?
Yeah, it was so close.
In your mind, did you use the word rape? Did you recognize it?
Yeah, well, and like people want to say money's the root of all evil, but like evil could exist without money. It's what people do with it. It's like drugs aren't the problem. It's people's relationship with drugs that are the problem. You know, guns, whatever, sex, all this stuff. Those things on their own, money, those things on their own aren't the problem. But people's relationship with it is the problem, and what they do with it and how they use it. You know, because there are a lot of rich people that do a lot of good, a lot of great philanthropy, like real good charitable stuff, and you know. And then just it seems like that stuff's not quite as highlighted. It's like you hear more about the stuff of like people that are doing good that are probably doing a lot more bad behind the scenes than you hear about people that are actually just doing good things just for the sake of doing good things. But it's because they don't need to be out there waving the flag about it. You know, they just want to do good things by nature, like they're good-natured people. Where other people use it as a promotional tool, you know, or as a press tool. To make it seem like they're doing so many great things, but then what's really going on behind the scenes, right?
Then,
no,
as rape?
No, I don't think I did. I just thought, like, you know, it's my fault. Like, I was, like, obligated. Like, that's just what you're supposed to do. So, I really did not know better.
When did you...
Well, and that's what makes it so sad, because it's like you think that you owe them because they're giving you all this money and all this opportunity, but that's the problem with the disparity too. Like some people, they grow up in such a rough situation that it makes them so much more vulnerable. You know, like everybody's trapped in this situation of like debt slavery, just about, you know, tax and debt slavery, and then the people above it all, it's like they're just like pawns in their game, you know, and it's really messed up. Like that needs to end. People need to stop having limitless power and influence just because they have a lot of money. Like just because you have a ton of money doesn't mean you're a good person.
Not blaming yourself.
It was a long time, really.
Rose says Epstein's staff continued to reach out to her for more than a year, but she did not respond. She says she didn't immediately tell anyone, including the police, something she says she now regrets.
Did Jeffrey Epstein rape you?
Yeah, no, he raped me. Forcefully raped me, but knew exactly what he was doing. And I don't think cared. What hurts even more so is that if I wasn't afraid to come forward sooner, then maybe he wouldn't have done it to other girls. I feel really guilty.
Yeah, but the grooming tactics, obviously, like they obviously had it down to like a fine art of how to get them lured in and gain their trust, gain their whatever, you know, be in their favor, and then they turn around and start expecting things from them, and then they feel obligated. Like they put them in that position where they're like, well, we want to keep having this life, and this money's helping my family, or whatever the situation may be, or like it's helping my career, or they're helping with my education. Like it puts them in a really bad position that they just don't really have a choice at that point, right? They do, but they don't. Like they do, but they're children, so you know, or they're young teens. So what else do they know? They don't really know. They don't know better. They don't know that they have the choice. They don't know that the money's not worth it, you know, because some of them, it's like they're bringing it home. They're like, yeah, I got like a part-time job at this country club, and I'm getting lots of tips and whatever, and it's helping the family, and the family's so happy or whatever, you know. You've got these different scenarios that play out, and then they feel guilty not doing it and not continuing to be able to bring that money in, right? So it's just such a, like, the way that the money's been able to be used as a tool for evil for so long it's so bad.
To this day, I feel really guilty.
Rose says she suffered from crippling anxiety, depression, and panic attacks for years until she finally confided in her mother, her then boyfriend, and 2 close friends. 3 told NBC News that she first told them about her interactions with Jeffrey Epstein a decade ago, the 4th about 6 years ago.
Have you ever tried to reach out to prosecutors and tell this story?
No, I did not. I was just too scared. I didn't really want to go, public with it.
You intend to file a lawsuit. What would you say to those who say a civil suit, lawyers, this is about getting money?
He hurt me badly. I prefer not to go through this. So, this is one way for me to get justice.
What does it take to find the courage to speak and tell your story?
It's a lot, even though maybe I don't look it because I'm so sad, but also happy tears because I'm able to, let myself go of this burden. I feel brave, I feel strong, more than ever right now.
Well, and that's the power in the numbers too, right? Like, this is other survivors that were choosing to come forward because of Virginia being so strong and outspoken about it and pushing forward and being so just a strong advocate, right? So this is where it's like it's so damaging to the whole situation overall, because like a lot of these survivors are going to be living in fear now, and even if their threat, like, they weren't facing the same kind of threats and intimidation and all of that as Virginia was before she passed, like, this is putting a whole new layer of fear in all of these girls' lives. Like, talk about putting them immediately into survival mode, right?
Started his targeted grooming and manipulation of me as a child when I was in New York City for a school trip. I first came into contact with an assistant of Epstein's while on a high school drama club field trip to New York City. I was invited to his home. There, his assistant took a photo of me and then later reached out to me inviting me to Epstein's ranch. I only knew Jeffrey Epstein for 5 days during a trip to Zorro Ranch.
Which, that's another property a lot of people don't know about, the ranch. I think it's in New Mexico. I'd have to double check that. But he had so many other properties and there were so many other things going on, and people were focused so much on the island that so many of the other details got lost in the sauce.
His massive compound surrounded by government land in the New Mexico desert. Epstein took my sexual innocence in front of a wall of framed photographs of him shaking hands and smiling with celebrities and political leaders. I was only 15 years old. After, he wanted to talk with me about what had just been my first sexual experience and directed me to take time to myself that night to cry. He said that would be beneficial to my growth. After this, we had a long talk about my future goals. I told him that I wanted to go to college to study biochemistry. He said that he wanted to give me money for college. He asked me how much money I thought he should give me. At 15 years old, living in northern Michigan with my mother, stepfather, and grandfather, I had no idea how to respond to a billionaire who had just raped me. I was being asked to quantify in monetary terms what had been taken from me. When I agreed to $5,000, he smiled and wrote a check made out to the college I so desperately wanted to attend and was not sure my parents could afford. During my trip to New Mexico, I had
obviously, like, as a kid, you don't know what college costs, how much it really costs, how much you need to go and finish a college course. So she, like, totally sold herself short there. But how is she gonna know? Like, when you're 15 years old, $5,000 seems like a ton of friggin' money. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just take that and be like, oh, okay, cool, that's gonna help with my college, yay for me, right? But at the same time, like, you're not understanding the damage and the all the emotional fallout and what that really means, and it's still not even gonna help you go to college, really. Like, that's barely covers a semester for most courses. Like, and like, it's not like it was that long ago. She, it would have been in, I guess, 2005 or whatever, when this woman would have been a teen. And so maybe $5,000 would have gone a little farther then than it does now, but that's still so, like, a minuscule amount, and he's thinking like, okay, cool, I just paid that's $5,000 for your innocence, basically, you know. And then when you really figure it out as an adult, you start looking back on it as an adult, like, that's a trauma. That's a trauma, having that dollar amount on your innocence and your first experience. Like, that's terrible. That's just terrible.
Flown on his jet, which I later learned had been nicknamed the Lolita Express. While he was giving me a tour of the bedroom, he told me to get down and feel the carpeted floors of the room. He then asked if I noticed anything special about the floor, and I responded that it felt very soft. He laughed and said it was because the floors in the bedroom were foam mattress floors, because he liked to have girls sleep around him on the floor while he slept in the bed. I remember wanting to ask him why he would want that. However, I restrained myself out of fear of sounding like the child I was. Later, when I chose a seat on the jet, Jeffrey told me that is where his good friend Bill Clinton always chooses to sit, as if to reassure me of the elite normalcy of that type of behavior. After I returned to Michigan from Zorro Ranch, I was contacted.
Or just to let her know, like, how powerful he is and how well connected he is, and like, this is just how we do things, and it just sort of, it feeds into the silence of it. Like, well, this is just how it's done, this is how we live, and you are accepted if you want to be part of it, or don't be a part of it, kind of thing, you know? Like, that the only way that you could have a nice life is if you are willing to sell yourself, you know, in so many words.
Contacted by one of Jeffrey Epstein's assistants and invited to Epstein's Island, where I was told Prince Andrew, among others, would be a guest. I declined the invitation out of fear. I had only experienced a glimpse of Jeffrey Epstein's world, but it left me with residual trauma which seriously impacted the trajectory of my life from that moment on. I know a considerable amount of information regarding Epstein's international child sex trafficking ring has already been released to the public. And I'm here today to ask that when you hear about more of the crimes committed against me and other victims, that you don't stop at feeling sorry or bad for us, but that you feel angry. Jeffrey Epstein was only a small part of an insidious system of privilege that exploits children as sexual commodities and robs them of their youth. It was clear from the time I spent with Epstein that something was very wrong with his lifestyle, and it didn't take a victim to see that. We were not hidden.
There were connections with Naomi Campbell and like Nelson Mandela, all of that, with children's charities, but between her and Diddy, the island that they've kind of taken over is Capo Verde.
It is upsetting to me to think that anyone who was closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein might argue that they didn't suspect that he might have been sexually abusing children. Epstein wielded great villainous power in his ability to make his victims feel shame of their backgrounds, to the point where we felt grateful of any attention or invitation into his inner billionaire playground, no matter the trauma it brought upon us. I left Zorro Ranch with a deep sense of shame, not just the shame of him having sexually abused me, but the shame of knowing that I had somehow been duped. It was the weight of Epstein's wealth, the isolation to which he subjected me, and his discussion of his social connections that crushed me into submission far more than his physical strength. I'm here today to clarify my position in a corrupt system that I have not trusted to punish its own. My hope is that this case and the resulting public discourse will help me to take back some of the power and self-esteem I lost as a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. For the past 16 years, I have felt isolated in my experience, and the lack of consequences for Epstein's actions has left me feeling as though there is no justice for me here. This case has brought me hope that there are people who are able and willing to assist us in our efforts to heal. I am grateful for the help I have received, the opportunity to speak, and the fact that this is not over. I would also like to say that I agree with Gloria that Prince Andrew and any others who are close to Epstein should come forward and give a statement under oath on what information they have. All the information pertaining to and around this case is important. Just because Epstein is dead does not mean that others around him don't deserve their day in court as well. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
From a
there's
detective's
still so
interviews
many,
with alleged victims to a former.
There's probably still so many more people that just hadn't come forward too, that were already in fear, and then this situation with Virginia obviously has just put more fear, so it's less likely that any other victims are going to come forward, and especially like if other names do get released and there are other cases coming out, if everybody's living in fear, there's less chance of any of those victims getting their justice, you know? That seems interesting, but that's the whole thing. But definitely, like, Clinton's come up in it. Different big names have come up in it. That you know, obviously they're trying to evade. They're trying to evade us scrutiny, right? So you never know how far they'll go to silence different victims and different people, and it's sad. Most of the other survivors are still with us, but some of them are not. Some of the other ones, there was another one, Caradone. I'd have to look it up. One sec. There was another victim that had, it's supposedly an accidental overdose, but I don't know if I believe that either. I might actually have it. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, I have an article for it, and there's a video attached to the article, so we'll get there. But Carolyn Andriano was found in Palm Beach, Florida hotel, and it was an accidental overdose, but I don't know. You really never know with some of this stuff.
British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who once lived the life of luxury, socializing with the rich and famous, running in the circles of Prince.
Speaking of Naomi Campbell, though, did you see some of those people that she was photographed with?
British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who once lived the life of luxury, socializing with the rich and famous.
What is that? Who is that? We were just talking about her, right? So there you go.
Famous, running in the circles of princes and presidents, now facing the prospect of the rest of her life behind bars. In a bombshell verdict, a jury finding Maxwell guilty of sex trafficking, in addition to 4 of the 5 other charges against her.
It's a tremendous relief to be here. I wasn't sure that this day would ever come.
Her accusers taking the stand in the high-profile trial, saying when they were teenagers, Maxwell befriended, groomed, and offered them up to be sexually abused by her then-boyfriend, disgraced multimillionaire and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Annie Farmer, one of the 4 women who testified against Maxwell, and the only one to publicly identify herself, calling the verdict a monumental step toward justice.
I just feel so grateful that the jury believed us and sent a strong message that perpetrators of sexual abuse and exploitation will be held accountable no matter how much power and privilege that they have.
A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein.
Maxwell has been in jail since her dramatic arrest at a New Hampshire estate in the summer of 2020, almost exactly 1 year after Epstein took his own life in his Manhattan jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking. Prosecutors called Maxwell a serial predator, saying she and Epstein were partners in crime and that she helped facilitate and on some occasions participated in the sexual abuse of underage girls from 1994 to 2004. According to some of the victims, Maxwell encouraged minors to provide sexualized massages, including some where the young girls would be partially or fully nude.
ABC News first spoke to Annie Farmer in 2019 about her experiences with Maxwell and Epstein and about what she says happened to her at his ranch in New Mexico.
I laid on the table and I was very aware that the door was open and I could be seen getting a massage. And then at some point she just takes the sheet down so she, exposed my breasts. And I feel uncomfortable. I feel like Epstein can probably see me right now. And she touches me around my chest, but blurring the boundaries of normal or not normal. This was such a scary situation for me. So I just needed to just to manage that and to go on as if everything was normal.
She is isolated on this ranch in New Mexico. She has no way to communicate with anyone. She's alone there with two adults she does not know. She's only 16 years old.
Yeah, so it's like the same pattern though over and over again, and then this is why it makes it like. This is why Ghislaine is more, it's more diabolical of her participation in it, because it's like women technically, like young girls are going to more trust a woman than they're going to trust these older guys. So it was like, she was like the lubricant, in some of these cases to like try to get them a little more comfortable and just start getting them undressed and all this stuff. And it's, yeah, it's kind of messed up. But yeah, exactly, Veronica. Naomi was Diddy's Ghislaine in a big way. And it's a little bit different because I think he was definitely, it seems, and from what a lot of these people have alleged, that he preferred young males. So it's a little different, but it's all the same. It's the same playbook, right?
I was sleeping in a small room. I was in my pajamas under the covers, and Epstein just sort of bounded in and said, "Oh, I'd like to cuddle." Of course, he wasn't waiting for me to agree to that. He got into bed with me then. Like, this was one of those boundary violations that was so clear, but knowing she's there, it makes me confused. Well, if they're partners, why? That doesn't make sense.
Annie says that Epstein physically restrained her and started pressing up against her. And she says she was frozen in fear.
I do remember getting out of bed and getting into the bathroom and shutting the door. I didn't want to admit what was going on was going on.
In 2019, Annie Farmer filed a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein's estate and Ghislaine Maxwell. She eventually accepted an offer from the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund, which required her to drop the lawsuit.
Another key witness in the trial, identified only by the pseudonym Jane, testifying that she met Maxwell and Epstein at summer camp when she was just 14 years old.
She's never been the same. She never will be the same. She's lived with unimaginable pain and suffering and emotional distress as a result of this heinous conduct that was committed against her. It's shaped her entire life.
Jane testified that Maxwell quickly became like a big sister, taking her shopping and to the movies, later encouraging her to give Epstein lurid massages that ended in her sexual abuse. Jane saying those illicit sexual encounters happened every time she saw Epstein over the course of several years.
This verdict speaks volumes, not just for our client, Jane, but for all the women survivor victims of this terrible abuse and violence that was inflicted upon them. This says that their pain, their suffering has been vindicated.
3 of Maxwell's siblings in the courtroom as their sister learned her fate. Maxwell's family standing by her, claiming the government only set its sights on her, turning her into a scapegoat after Epstein's death. Her family saying in a statement, "We believe firmly in our sister's innocence. We are very disappointed with the verdict. We have already started the appeal tonight, and we believe that she will ultimately be vindicated."
Well, and it's funny because, like, the whole Ghislaine thing, she wasn't even going to be brought into the courtroom really until she decided to start publicly speaking out, saying that Virginia was a liar. So Virginia had gone ahead and filed a defamation suit because obviously it was untrue. She wasn't a liar. She had enough evidence and enough other people coming forward that supported and corroborated, right? So that's what was able to bring it into court and allow for discovery and allowed for a lot more of the evidence and documents to start leaking out into the public. And that's what really started, driving a nail into her coffin, really, so to speak. She kind of did it to herself. She just couldn't keep her mouth shut. She went ahead and had to start going to the public that, oh, these girls are lying, that Virginia's lying. And that's ultimately what got it in the court and had enough evidence revealed that show that she was just as complicit and just as much of a participant in the whole criminal enterprise.
I think that anybody who sat and listened to the accuser's testimony, I'm a dad, I'm a brother, anybody listening to that testimony is going to have been moved. But that doesn't mean that I believe for a single second that my sister is guilty of the crimes of which she was convicted.
A date for Maxwell's sentencing not yet set. Her attorneys telling the court they want to wait until Maxwell receives her booster shot in light of the surge in COVID cases in New York.
I remain absolutely persuaded of Epstein's crimes. I'm equally persuaded that my sister will be exonerated on appeal and that these guilty verdicts will be overturned.
Tonight, global scrutiny now shifting to the UK's Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell's former longtime friend, after her sweeping sex trafficking conviction. The Queen's son currently facing a civil lawsuit in New York filed by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, pictured here with him and Maxwell decades ago. Giuffre accusing the prince of having sex with her 3 times, starting when she was 17, allegations he has repeatedly denied. For Maxwell, who turned 60 in her jail cell on Christmas, the verdict marks a stunning downfall for a woman born into wealth and status.
The justice system worked and said, this is not okay. If you're going to help someone abuse little girls and sexually abuse little girls, you will be held accountable. You will get arrested. You will go to jail.
For Annie Farmer, the sentence is a watershed moment, showing no one is above the law.
I think justice is a complicated term. We know there were other people involved and other perpetrators, and we certainly hope that there will continue to be investigations so that other people will be held accountable for the ways that they abused people.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking.
Yeah. Well, it's like all these different people can't all be lying. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different people that are saying the same things and confirming the same names and saying, it's all the same MO kind of thing, right? So, and yeah, it's the same playbook all across the board. Like, this isn't just to do with Epstein, really, when you think about it. Like, this is how a lot of these groups work, and it goes all the way up the line, and they start get them, they recruit them off the street, and it starts small, but it works them up to, and the more complicit and the more submissive and the more, easily silenced they're able to be, like they're not telling on them, they're not, they're just getting away with it, then that kind of moves them up the line to more and more of the elite people, because obviously the elite people want to be able to know they're going to get away with whatever they're doing, like in the case with this Prince Andrew thing, right? So it just shows, like, it happens at all levels. Like, it's not just the creepy guy down the street you got to worry about with your kids, you know what I mean? It's not just like the weirdo neighbor you want to look out for. It happens at all levels. Like, so many dark things can be happening behind doors where happy little wreaths are hung, It could seem like the picture perfect image of the picture perfect lifestyle or people, and like they're upstanding citizens and they have this high up title in the community or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they're absolved of any kind of guilt or darkness. It doesn't mean that they can't be capable of evil, right? They feel ashamed, that they feel bad about it, that they don't want to just comply and continue and be part of it, because the people that are going along with it and being part of it end up with these nice lives, but they don't feel good about it and they don't want to have any part in it. And so then they feel this guilt and they feel all the shame, on top of the guilt and shame of the act itself and whatever happened to them itself, right? Like there's so many more layers to that. Like that was my key to having that freedom or having that better life and providing a better life for my family, and I blew it. Like you got to think of all the different layers of the emotional damage that they're going through with something like this, that they felt like they were doing everything right and they should have still been able to have that opportunity, but if they didn't want to be trespassed upon, like then that opportunity is no longer available to them. And so it's like there's so many more other layers to it. Yeah, we definitely need to change the language of that also. 100%. Like especially like, okay, yeah, they're young, they're still young girls though. When you're like 17, 18, you're still like you're not really a woman yet, like you said, you're not really fully formed adult till such an age. Like your brain's not even done developing. So and being that much older too, like these are fucking like very adultier adults. There's still like that kind of there's some leeway there to an extent, right? Like if you're 18, 19 and say the person's 20, 23, whatever, somewhere in there, like it's still not great, but it's like you can see that they would still meet in some ways, like at a job or at school, or like there'd be a way that they would come into contact that would be a natural, organic thing, where these people are fully like preying on them and going to places looking for young people that they don't belong. These people don't belong in these places with the young people, and they're finding them somehow. They're finding them at their place of work, at the Mar-a-Lago, or they're finding them at a dance academy thing, or they're at a drama club, school trip. This one girl was saying she was on a school trip and had been approached, right? So this is where it makes it that much more worse. Like there's still predatory behavior that's kind of questionable in a way, but like when you think about, how deep it goes on that sense of like of seeking them out and targeting them specifically, right? Because like all these women just trying to live in peace and trying to have like a normal life after all of this, and something like this happens, and obviously they were already kind of shook when Epstein ended his life and like no justice was really served, or supposedly ended his life, reportedly ended his life, and no justice was served. So you can think just even more of like the impact that the whole thing with Virginia is having on all of them right now. Like I can't even imagine, after all of that and all of them coming forward and putting themselves out like that and like feeling like they were the safety in numbers, and then, man, it's great that they're like, some of them are finding, some peace and healing with writing books or, doing other kinds of activism and, finding a way to close the chapter, because for some people it's like this kind of stuff was haunting them for the rest of their lives, and like this is why, it's trauma like this is why people end up with different addictions or different mental health issues. Is the root cause is trauma. It's not that they have a problem or they're powerless to the substances or to alcohol. It's trauma. They have trauma and they're trying to self-soothe the best way that they know how, because for a lot of people certain medications and certain things don't work for them, so anyway, so the next one we have the father of Virginia talking about meeting Epstein here, and then we'll figure out what we're doing next, because I think we're almost at 2 hours here, and we're gonna need at least a couple minute break in a minute anyways if we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna need to use the facilities and stuff.
Ms. Giuffre's father says we should believe her version of events and that the Duke of York knows the truth and has to live with it. In a world-exclusive interview, we're joined now by her father, Sky Roberts, live from Florida. Mr. Roberts, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Britain watched your daughter last night, a highly emotional and very charged interview in which she made very serious allegations against Prince Andrew, who's already been shamed and removed from most of public life. What is your reaction to that interview, and what is your feeling towards Prince Andrew?
Well, my feelings toward Prince Andrew is that he knows the truth and what he really did. I mean, I've seen the interviews, him denying everything, but apparently he's not telling the truth, and I think most of Britain knows that. I feel so sorry for my daughter, for everything she's went through. At the time that she was going through it, I had no idea, but I love my daughter very much, and she's really brave to be going through all this and to come up against these powerful people.
It must be very hard as a father to hear these allegations, to hear her talk about what she was forced to do, and to see her in tears as she talks about it. What impact has it had on you, and what message would you like to give to your daughter?
Well, I just really like to just tell her to stay strong and stay safe, to begin with, because these are powerful people that she's dealing with. And, it's not just Prince Andrew, it's several other people too that, she has allegations against, but.
Yeah. Well, so they knew, the family knew that she was putting herself in danger. So I don't know why they'd be so quick to say that she had done it to herself and there wouldn't be more of an investigation and more eyes on it, because it just seems like there's too much in it for that. Too many people wanted to see her life ended that for it to be her having done it to herself,
I know she's telling the truth. My daughter is, she's a good girl. She really is. Like I say, I wish I'd have known all this stuff was going on. But I didn't. As a parent, you kind of ask the question, how do you not know that your children are doing this? But she's a very good actress, when she would come home from these trips, she said nothing about it, and it must have been killing her inside. But for powerful people like that, they can threaten a young girl like that. These girls are young. They really don't know that, what's going on with these powerful people and what they can actually do. If they're threatening their mother and father and brothers or whatever with, we're going to take them out or whatever, if you say anything, then, they don't say anything. I'm just glad she's out of it and she's fighting back. And we're very proud of her. She's
Mr. Roberts, let me ask you, when did she first tell you that she had this liaison with Prince Andrew?
I never talked to my daughter about that. I only seen it on the news and, what I read in the papers and things like that. But it's not something you talk about with your daughter. She's probably not comfortable talking to me about it because of what happened. But she knows I know. And, like I say, I feel really sorry that all this happened. But it did happen, and Prince Andrew should pay for it.
It will come down to, for some people, of a question of who you believe. Do you believe Prince Andrew, who emphatically denied having sex with your daughter, in fact, said he couldn't recollect ever meeting her, despite the photograph that we keep showing? He tried to cast aspersions on the veracity of that photograph. Or there's your daughter, who last night gave a very powerful testimony about what she says happened, very detailed and very shocking. You know your daughter better than any of us, obviously. Do you have any doubt that she's telling the truth?
I have no doubt at all that she's telling the truth. I've seen the interviews with Prince Andrew, and it just shows to me, and I think most of Britain, that he is not telling the truth. She has no reason to not tell the truth about this, and he has every reason to deny it.
Yeah. Well, and they knew that it was dangerous. They knew that there's so many more other people involved, and this is all the more reason they need to let release these files, or at least we need to start seeing some action, because how many people need to die? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Because him being a royal and what he's done. These are young girls. These are kids. You know, he has young daughters. I mean, what if it was his daughter that went through this? You know, that these powerful people that pick on young girls like this, they should be prosecuted.
Well, at the heart of all of this, of course, is Jeffrey Epstein. And I wonder how much you knew about Jeffrey Epstein and what he was up to and what he was forcing your daughter to do.
Yeah, I had no idea about that either. Like I say, when I worked for Trump, you know, and I got Virginia a job there in the spa at Mar-a-Lago, and then she was only there a couple of weeks. It was very nice to have her there with me because we could have lunch together and, you know, talk, and it was great. It was a good time. And then when Miss Maxwell had recruited her to Jeffrey Epstein, you know, she was excited about it because they were going to teach her massage therapy. And I always thought, well, it's always good to learn every job you can. You know, I mean, I do engineering, I do a lot of different things. And I said I needed to meet Mr. Epstein first before you go to work for him. And I actually took her to Epstein's home, his mansion in Palm Beach, and I met with him. But at that time, there was nothing about Epstein being a pedophile or any of his dealings or what was going on with him. You know, he was a billionaire and he had islands and ranches in New Mexico and, you know, places all over. I mean, he looked like a regular guy to me. When I met him, you know, he's wearing jeans and a regular T-shirt, and there's no way I could tell that what kind of person he was. He seemed perfectly normal, but...
How does it make you feel, Mr. Roberts, to now know that he was a very depraved serial...
That's, like, even more messed up, though, that he, like, went as far as meeting the guy, and to him it seemed fine, everything seemed fine, but then it ends up being this totally sick, depraved thing. Like just shows that it's how much more, you know, the lengths that they go as like an actor almost to make some of these parents believe, like, if they're going to speaking with the actual parents and then still these kids are ending up in this situation, like, obviously, you know, even the parents are distracted by the money or the billionaire status and thinking, oh, like, it's just a regular guy and he's just, you know, he's got lots of money, it's a great opportunity, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, how easy it is for these people to be misled. Like, and that's kind of the same within the industry, you know, with some of these stage moms and stuff like that put their kids into unsafe situations because they're like, oh, well, it's a great opportunity, you know, it'll be for your future and so on and so forth, and then they end up wrapped in some of this insanity, you know.
Pedophile, and that he preyed on your own daughter, and that Ghislaine Maxwell was allegedly party to trafficking your daughter to people like Prince Andrew.
I'm furious. I mean, to know now what I know now about Jeffrey Epstein and Miss Maxwell and several others that, I mean, I'm sure that's why Jeffrey Epstein is not alive right now, is because somebody didn't want to see his books or whatever he's got on everybody.
Which guy on TikTok? Are you talking about the help sign thing in LA?
I know he didn't kill himself, you know. That had to be, you know, somebody from above that, you know, came and got him and, you know, took him out. But, yeah, I'm furious with the guy. I mean, you know, I'd like to say really pissed off, you know, at the whole thing now. And if there was any way I could change it, I would.
Do you fear for Virginia's safety?
Yes, I do. I feel for Virginia's safety. There's still a lot of powerful people that's alive now that, you know, but she's just telling the truth. She's letting the world know who these people are and what they're doing. And these people have families too. And that's why they're denying, you know, because they do have families and they have children. But they shouldn't be preying on young girls, you know. I mean, some of these girls are 15 years old.
Mr. Roberts, we sadly have to leave it there. Very powerful interview. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
You are out of time. Like, it's funny when they go ahead and cut them off when they're really getting into something, like, really serious. Like, the dad was going to say something pretty important there. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, we're out of time now. Leave it at that. We don't want to talk about, we can't talk about the people. Yeah, Cappy was talking about Epstein, too, a lot. And there was a lot of other stuff going on at the time that, I think there was just so much distraction, too, that people just weren't really paying attention, or they just didn't know. They didn't know better of what to keep their eyes on, you know. Because that's how these people get away with it, you know. That's how this stuff keeps happening, and then, you know, the people at the top keep getting off scot-free, right? Yeah, and they thought that the documents were going to do something, but it ended up being just, like, stuff that was already a public domain, like, everything that was already out. I thought this was going to be a longer article. I don't know. I was a little tired getting up and trying to get this stuff together. But I don't know where we want to go with this. Maybe we'll go over these tweets, and then I do have this Epstein thing, but I don't know. I've been getting... since I was posting the Epstein stuff, I was kind of getting spanked, so I don't know. But anyway, so we'll go over some of these tweets and stuff, and I do have that clip of Ghislaine still, if we wanted to watch that. But actually, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking, because they really don't want people to see this, this Prince Andrew interview, I was, while the clip was playing, I was looking, and I found the full version, like the full 40 minutes of the whole interview, which I didn't see it last night, so it was kind of weird. But I just was using the clips, right? But I found the full thing, so I was thinking that maybe once I go, we'll look at these tweets and stuff. I have just a couple things here, and then the survivor that's come out and had made a statement about this situation with Virginia. And then maybe we take it over to the Telegram group, and because I can play it in there and without an issue. So maybe we'll do that after. We'll just carry it over, and I'll live stream into there, and we can watch the full interview. I don't know. It is on YouTube though, so I don't know if you want me to just drop the link, I could just do that too. I don't know. Or we could just hold some space for like a little mini vigil, a digital vigil for Virginia. I just want to keep the conversation going, you know. I just want people to know what the heck's going on here. I don't want it to get buried so easily, you know, as this kind of stuff so often does, right? Like there's so much more to it, and I don't want her passing to be the end of it, you know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't have to be, but so often is, so this is all the more reason to keep our eyes wide open, right? But yeah, maybe we'll play this and I'll take 5 and we'll figure out what we're doing next here, because I don't want to keep you guys all night either, like, but I guess it is Friday, so it's not like or Saturday, sorry, so it's not like you guys have things going on tomorrow, so I'm not taking up your, you know, Monday or anything like that. But I don't know, we'll let you guys decide. You guys could vote what we want to do. So yeah, I'm going to play this survivor's clip, her statement.
My name is Juliet Bryant, Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. I am not suicidal, and I never ever will be. I also do not do any drugs. I met Epstein when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton. We all know about the Clinton body count. Another concerning fact is that one of the main women, a very brave angel, Carolyn, who testified against Ghislaine Maxwell, was found dead 6 months ago. It wasn't in the media until a few days ago. The only reason it was put in the media was because of a very, very brave Epstein victim. She doesn't want to be named. But there are other Epstein victims who've also died suspiciously. Carolyn was a beautiful, amazing, brave woman who planned a life on a chicken farm with her family. Instead, she was found dead in a hotel room. I want to speak out for safety and for other victims because it's very frightening when the media won't cover any of the victims' stories. A lot of my story hasn't been told in the media, and it's the same with a lot of other victims. And we actually all feel quite frightened with everything that's been going on. And as we know, this is not the first suspicious death related to the evil Maxwell empire. They also used to run the media. So maybe that's why victim stories are not being told to the media, and the victims of Epstein feel very frightened. Please all pray for Carolyn's family. And thank you for listening.
I guess it was just after. I thought she was going to be talking about the Virginia thing too. It must have been just a repost then, speaking about it after Carolyn passed. But it just goes to show though that it's not just Virginia, and there is a body count. There is a body count with a lot of these different people that have been named. We know with the Clinton stuff, they're like, you don't have 56 people that pass and do it to themselves. It just doesn't seem realistic. No, you're okay. Oh shit, we are muted again. Sorry guys. Yep. My bad. Sorry guys. So I think what we'll do, I do want to just keep this going for a bit longer. I definitely want to keep the conversation going. And but I am kind of tired from last night. I was up pretty late and doing the live, and then when the live got blocked right away after, I stayed up getting it clipped up and tried to salvage what I could and get it back up as soon as I could. Yeah, see, so my brain's not braining. So maybe give me like 5 minutes. I'm gonna make some coffee and use the facilities and stuff here. But so in the meantime, I'm going to put up like a little digital vigil moment. We'll have like a moment of just silence, thinking for the victims and holding space for people that have gone through trauma. And we'll let that run for a few minutes while I get my shit together here, and we'll figure out what we're doing next. Might call it though, because I think we kind of covered everything for today and can always start up again in the morning. I'll get some proper rest today and then start earlier tomorrow. But I don't know if you guys want to like take a vote or what you're thinking. If you have any suggestions, because I was thinking too, we could take it over to, like I said, to the Telegram group, which is here. If you join in there, I can live stream to there, and we can watch the full Prince Andrew interview, because we won't be able to do that here. But I'll leave it up to you guys, because obviously, you know, I've already kept you here for a couple hours. Hopefully that loop's okay. Yeah, and some of you guys are heading to bed. Thank you guys. Yeah, appreciate. And yeah, sorry about the mute thing there. That was ridiculous. So yeah, I'm gonna just put a little bit of music on. I'll put this up for a few minutes. We'll figure out what we're gonna do here. I just want to keep the conversation going. I don't want to keep attention on this. I don't want people to just to let it pass, and then it's just another news thing that people forget about, you know, next week. We got to put the pressure on to have the list revealed and have these victims brought to justice, because it's obviously not just these guys. It's not just the women who've come forward. There's probably so many more, and then there's like kids involved. It wasn't just teens, right? Where the media's more been focusing on the teen victims that have come forward to you know, do the lawsuits and stuff, but there's so much more to it. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So yeah, we'll run this for a few moments, and then I'll at least just get a coffee and we'll figure out what we're doing here. But it might be good to just have a moment for a little moment of memory, memorial, whatever, a vigil, whatever you'd want to call it. You don't have to be religious, you don't have to believe in anything, but whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, so we'll do that for a few moments, and then maybe we'll call it. But yeah, we just can't let this die. We can't let this just get bowled over and buried like it has been, like with every other case. So many other cases that they end up effectively covering up, you know? Alright, guys, I was just thinking about it, and maybe what we'll do is I will end this, but it actually might be nice to set up the little candlelight vigil to run through the evening. I'll end this one and I'll start a fresh one, so if anybody wants to join it, but no pressure. Just gonna keep it going, just with the nice music, and if anybody, you know, holding space for trauma, for anyone that's a survivor of trauma in general, and just, you know, holding space for the people still trapped in the sadistic system and still being traded and exploited, you know, especially the kids, and kind of roll it into a virtual march for the kids, and just keeping it on the top of mind, you know. She definitely deserves the respect and the memory, and you know, I think there's a lot more people that are affected just overall by this, and so it might be a nice thing to do, just to have it on and holding space. And if people want to talk about trauma, or they want to talk about the Epstein case, or they want to talk about Virginia or whichever, but then just have that run for a little while into the evening, and then tomorrow we'll figure out something. I just don't want to let it die with the, you know, the story die like as it has with, you know. This is exactly how these things get covered up, and, you know, people forget so quickly. And I think holding space for just survivors in general and for the kids, you know, that's all part of it. It's all a big part of what we're trying to do here. So I think we'll do that. I think we'll set that up. So if anybody wants to carry the conversation over there, by all means. If not, there's no pressure. I know I've already kept you for a couple hours here, and you guys all got things to do too, so no pressure whatsoever, but just so it leaves an open space for folks to pay their respects, or to release some trauma into the netherverse. And you know, because I know we have a pretty good group here, and I think things are pretty under control. You know, there's no pressure for admins or mods, sorry, to stick around if you got stuff to do. It's no big deal. I'll keep an eye on it. But then I can get some stuff prepped for tomorrow and still get to bed at a decent time, and be refreshed and ready to go. And we'll keep hitting this full force. Because yeah, like we need to do something. We got to rise up. People need to start contacting their local representatives and demanding some answers and demanding change. Like, we can't just keep letting this happen, you know. So we'll set something up, and we'll do that, and then yeah, we'll come back tomorrow and figure it out what we're doing next. So hopefully you guys have a great night, as good as you can, with such darkness weighing on us at the moment. Just, you know, stay safe out there, and keep your eyes wide open, guys. Sounds good to everybody. I guess you guys are already kind of starting to file out anyways too, but for any of you still in here. And the music's nice, and it's just nice to do something. It'll be nice to do something for her, you know, and not be so focused just on the all the craziness of it all too, you know, just to hold some space, I think would be important. But yeah, alrighty guys, so we'll catch you over there. Yeah, no, exactly. We have to carry on our work some way, and just keep our thumb on the jugular, so to speak, you know? Keep the pressure on, that we're not just going to let it be one news cycle and then it's done and over with, and then we never talk about it again, you know? I don't want to see it happen like that, you know? She was such a strong, you know, like a mentor, I guess you could say, for a lot of survivors, or, I don't know. I don't want to use words like iconic or anything like that, but she's a legend. She's kind of a legend in the space of truthers and people fighting for the kids, right? So I think we really got to go the extra mile for her, if and when we can, you know? Absolutely. Totally. So I think you're good, though. You won't have to stick around, though, Sentinel, if you got other stuff to do. But yeah, I think that, you know, it's important. It's going to be important to hold more space than what the news cycles were going to allow for. So yeah, I'm going to throw this into the outro sequence, and I'll flip it over. And I'm just going to share the Prince Andrew full interview into the group, the Telegram, the Eyes Wide Open group, and yeah, we'll stick on this We're going to keep digging into this. I think we'll do some more deep dives the next few days, too, in the evenings, you know, for other people that were involved in this, and just not let people forget how big this is and what this really means, like, for both sides of it, for the loss of Virginia and what it might potentially mean for the people that have still not yet been served any justice, you know? So, you wrote her a song? Oh, that's so nice, Sam. Very nice. So yeah, thank you guys for coming out for this, and if we don't see you over on the other side, that's totally fine. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and yeah, just let's just keep our thumb on the jugular one way or the other. We gotta share some stuff around. Just keep talking about the kids. Like, it's about the kids at the end of the day. Like, as much as we want everyone to be served justice, you know, any teens or anybody that was in the situation, any of the young women. It's gonna be just on here. I'll just go live again. So this will end, and then the live will come back up again, but it'll be a separate instance, I guess you'd call it. Sorry, I'm still really tired, guys, but I definitely didn't want to miss this today. I didn't want to put it off just because I had a long night last night, you know. So yeah, just keep an eye out, and you can, when you refresh and go back to the channel page, it'll come up in another minute here. Yeah, give me just a couple minutes to set it up, and then it'll come back on. But it's on your channel. Awesome. Right on. Yes, if anybody wants to check out, Sam did a song for Virginia. That's so nice of you. I appreciate that. That's really nice. We really just, we gotta hold space for her and all the other survivors and any kids still trapped in it, like I said, right? So, alrighty, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna throw it into the outro, and then I'll get that set up for us. All right.